for sure.
So how do you balance that? How do you announce the roles so you can keep the family together while keeping it professional?
So I think what we do is we have we have a systemized and unsystemized meetings, right?
Okay.
So we have weekly meetings every Sunday. So that we know we're in business mode. So anything that's dealing with the parents or with the son is not in this specific area. So that's what I like to call non-negotiable, right? That's fixed. Then you have flexible, right? So then the flexible is what people tend to not be able to target, which is where we have to announce. So the flexibles is where we announce. The fixed is where we don't have to announce because it's fixed. We know that this is the mode that we're in. Look, I'm talking to you all every single episode about how to be able to create a six-figure digital empire, and some of y'all haven't taken action yet. Y'all just, for some reason, life haven't slapped you in the face yet where it's like, yo, I'm tired of being at the place that I'm in right now. I'm tired of working my 9-to-5. I want to create a business. I want to become an entrepreneur. I'm tired of working for someone else when they don't even care about me. Look, I have something for you. I was working a 9-to-5, literally not even a year ago, actually it's gonna be a year this year that I have been able to leave my 9-to-5 to be able to come to you guys and show you how I was able to leave working at Papado, 101 Steak, Ruth Chris, all hospitality places, y'all, to now being able to break 100K months. Literally, this is what happened. Let me tell you. I was able to break 100K months in 6 months, to be more exact. And I'm going to show you exactly how I was able to do it and how exactly I was able to do it from working a job, creating multiple 4 to 5 figures while working my 9-to-5, to then leaving my 9-to-5, to then scaling my business. Y'all, I'm going to show you how to fund your business without using your own money. There's so many things in this book that I could be charging tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm going to share with you how exactly I did it with pennies of the dollar. It costs $10, y'all. Worst case scenarios, you learn something more and profit off of it. Okay, so look, click the link, thedigitalempireebook.com. Get the ebook, y'all. You literally just get the ebook. What's going on, YouTube? It has been a minute since I have come out with a normal video like this. I want to do more like this, just to let you all know. I'm going to be posting more often on my YouTube channel. I want to post, some things about the podcast, some vlogs, as well as some normal content just like this. So look out for those. Look out. I'm really, really working hard to post more and give you all more consistency. So to go back to what I was saying before, welcome back. And today I actually have an amazing video for you. One of the podcasts that I was honored and guest on, the name of it is actually called After Hours Entrepreneurs Podcast, and I actually broke down some really, really good tips for entrepreneurs like yourself, people who want to actually get in this space. And I wanted to really break down how exactly I was able to scale our business from 2,000 to 100K a month. And I really want to make sure that you all have all the intricacies on how exactly I did that and what things I put in place. So I want you all to check out this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This is what you really need. I'm telling you, I did break down a lot of gems that most people will pay me thousands to go over. So hopefully you all enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, Marcus, what's up?
How you doing?
Good, man. Good to be here. Talk shop today. I love what you and your family are doing over there at Social Currencies. So I want to talk about the business. I want to talk about the strategies that you're implementing because here at the After Hours Entrepreneur, we're about building businesses, baby. 6 figures and up. Let's go.
Absolutely. 100%. So whenever you want me to go ahead and get started, I can introduce myself and do everything right now.
Go ahead. Knock it out.
Okay, cool. So my name is Marcus Turner, also known as Chart Slayer in the space that I'm in. But when it comes to the actual entrepreneurship realm, I am named Chart Slayer. But what we do is we help struggling small business owners systemize, fund, and scale their business. So that's a key thing that we do, and we exist to break 1,000 families' generational curses within their household.
Well, I dig it, and that's really what the show is about. It's about empowering people to pave that path. I really believe that if you get focused, if you're able to learn, to apply yourself and actually take action, you can completely change your life. 100%. And I think that's a good place to start, Marcus. As I was listening to your show, The Digital Empire, you had mentioned that, you kind of had a rough upbringing. Got kicked out of high school, you were arrested, you're dealing with the criminal justice system, but you've really made a focus on redefining yourself. So could you walk me through how you were redefining yourself, both intrinsically and extrinsically?
For sure. So I would say to start off, so it'll actually make sense on why I made the decision intrinsically and extrinsically. I got kicked out of high school for paraphernalia, I guess you could say, but for marijuana. I got kicked out and went to an alternative school, graduated early, right? So there was never a intelligent deficiency when it came to what I do. But what I would say is what made things change and gotten arrested and this is that and the third, I would say, when did I make a decision that lifestyle wasn't the best decision? I would say honestly, I feel like it was a gradual thing. I don't think it was like a smack dead, like, hey, I don't think life smacked me in the face enough to be like, hey, you should, switch your life around. I think it was more of a gradual thing over time where, a person just grows out of being a male and starts to become a man, if that makes sense. This is just my personal upbringing. I don't know if you've read this book or heard of this book called Male versus Man, but there was a quote or proverb, I guess you could say, in that book that says, a male seeks to be serviced and a man seeks to be of service. So for me at that point, I just got tired of being serviced, where everybody should come to me, and at some point I should be of service and look to serve other people. And I think this is just over time, my mind just started to switch. Now in regards to extrinsically, where I just started changing my associates, if that makes sense. Okay. The environment that I was in was no longer the environment that I was in after that time period. Like the people that were still let's be real, the people that are in that area or that era are still doing things that when I got kicked out. Right now, I don't smoke. I only, I guess, social drink. I'm not a drinker like that, like I used to be. I'm focused. I am big on scaling, big on building, big on relationships. Those core things. So I think to answer your question is in a moral sense, intrinsically it was a gradual thing. Extrinsically, it was just more of I changed my associates in my environment.
Let's face it, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
For sure.
Right. It's just the truth. And so when you start surrounding yourself and inputting positive inputs, listening to the right podcasts, reading the right books, watching the right television shows, it just impacts everything in your life. So I was talking to Chris Do the other day, he's the founder of The Future, about this idea of a compelling event, because, I wouldn't say I've had the hardest life. It hasn't been the roughest life, but I have not always been motivated. I have not always been a reader. Right. I've been overweight. I've gone down the lane of using drugs and not being focused. I don't necessarily know that there was a specific compelling event for me, kind of like you, but I feel like there's breadcrumbs it feels like there has to be a certain breaking point where we just recognize and we're kind of true to ourselves that I need to change. I need to get rid of the bad habits and start the good.
100%.
Is there anything that you do, Marcus, to try to eliminate bad habits and replace them with good habits?
I would say what I do is journal a lot. I think that a lot of people aren't aware of bad habits. So I made it my priority to be aware of them. And in order for me to be aware is journaling every single week and reflecting on my week. So I would say that those things helped me to be able to further those habits. And then the key thing is just me being able to do that consistently. I think the consistency aspect, I think, is what you were talking about, the breadcrumbs. Around that time when I got kicked out and everything is when coincidentally the journaling started to occur. So I think the more I got aware consistently, I think that's what really switched my mentality. So I would say just journaling is really what made me aware to be able to shift where I was.
I love that. I was reading Atomic Habits by James Cleary last night, and he mentioned that journaling is a good way of kind of like fleshing out ideas, being
like
true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you go public with those ideas, or do you keep them private? Is that like just your private journal, or do you go public?
It kind of depends on the scenario, right? Like the ideas like the specific ideas in the book, I may go public and maybe talk to them like about like, you know how you tell your story, like maybe the circumstances of telling my story to where I got to where I am right now. Yes. But usually my book, the book of where I journal, is usually private, because those are like personal feelings, personal emotions, stuff like that are more for like internal things. Does that make sense? Like they're not really for like the external, but like in my journal, there's a brain dumping aspect where whatever ideas I have, I put in there. And then if the ideas are actually relevant and they make sense and will actually benefit, then I do execute on them.
No, and I agree with you about that brain dump idea. And it's good that you're brain dumping into a journal and not when you're explaining what you do to people. Mm-hmm. So I suffered from this pretty badly when I was starting my business. I run a podcast production agency and coaching program to help busy professionals build status and sales with podcasts. Mm-hmm. But it took me a really long time to get clear on that. And this is, I think, an epidemic of young entrepreneurs. Somebody asks you what you do, and you're like, well, it's funny you ask. And then you proceed to give a 10-minute monologue about what you do.
Facts.
And that's a problem, right? Like, we live in this day and age where attention spans are pretty quick. Like, you got to get to the point. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And this idea of journaling, I think, is a good way of trying to get that clarity.
Right.
One of the positives for me, and I don't know if you've done this as well, Marcus, is I'll kind of test my ideas on friends and family. So I would just, this podcast, for example, I was having a really hard time figuring out the name for the show, the After Hours Entrepreneur. It took me a long time. Eventually, I was just in a car ride with my wife, and I just started explaining what the show was about, and I got that moment of brilliance.
Yeah.
Has there been a time where you're kind of like explaining your ideas either to your journal or to a family member that gave you a moment of brilliance like that?
For sure. I actually go by the philosophy of not trying to figure things out until they come organically.
Okay.
Like I actually go by that philosophy, like names, titles, like clothing brands, like merch, stuff like that. I literally will only allow it to come to me organically, because I know if it's organic, then that means that's something that's actually important to me and in my values, right? So if I like try to come up with something, I then have to doubt, okay, is this what I really want? Is this how it goes? Like the digital empire, that was a organic word. You know what I mean? Legacy that we have, the merch that we have, legacy is a organic word. Chart Slayer was an organic phrase, right? Like, so these things are usually just organic, and I strive to just keep it organic with everything that I do.
I like, people could definitely feel when stuff feels forced. So I like that idea. So I want to kind of go a little bit deeper into what you're doing now, right? Social Currency is the business that you're running with family. Right. So can you explain to me how you got involved in Social Currency, how the family got together and started building that business?
Absolutely. So it started off originally as a financial literacy company, which it still is, right? But I think we're now transitioning to more of business and scaling and such like that. But we started off as a financial literacy into like Forex, options, stocks, stuff of those nature. And I think that that over time, especially when we started to get to 2020, we had a really, really good year, right? I think we were pushing $500,000 on that year, and I think everybody who was digital in that space really had a good time in 2020. But we realized that we did not have any ideas on how to manage our finances. We knew financial literacy and making money, but we didn't know how to keep it. Okay. Right? So we had to do a lot of research, hire certain people in order to get us to where we are right now, which is learning how to keep our money, sustain our money, and multiply it. Right? So I think from there is when we kind of created the Social Currencies Sinatra, because Social Currencies is all about talking about money, being about money. So that's kind of like how we came up with that. And then we were just like, okay, what people do we need in our business, owners wise, in order to have this come to life? Right. And so we started looking outside of our family. Right. And then we just found out that some people just didn't fit. And we realized that the only reason why people actually paid attention to us is because we ran as a unit, as a family. Right. So then that's what made us say, you know what, let's just have our owners within the family. Right. And so that's what kind of brought about that.
Sorry, I'm trying to get a little more clarity on that. So do you mean that it was hard to kind of trust an outsider to come in and take an important part? Do you mean that you were building a business that was really reliant on your personal brand, which let's face it, there's only one Marcus Turner out there. You cannot outsource yourself, which is a problem. I think that, you know, that we face here as creators building businesses in the creator economy. Is that what you mean, or could you clarify that?
So that was part of it. The other part was finding someone that fit our values as a company, right? So our values is family first, solution driven. Those are some of our values that we have within our company, and some of them just didn't match it, right? Because family first would entail that you have to have a family that matches our values, right? And so we couldn't find someone that was like that. The only people that fit our values was our own family. And so we had to figure out a way for all of us to be able to, because when you're having business with your family, there's a fine line, especially when it's your mother, your dad, like their mother and their parents first before business. And so we had to find that fine line and actually announce what role we're in. And so that's some of the things that we had to do. Oh, we're in business mode. Oh, we're in parent mode, or we're in son mode. And so that's kind of the things that we did as a whole in order for this to work. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the reasons why.
I want to clarify what you mean by roles. It reminds me of something that I heard from Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer, Super Bowl NFL champion, was on one of my shows a few years ago. And that was called the Awesome Dad Show. And he mentioned a concept that was pretty similar to what you're talking about, Marcus. This is kind of funny, is for all the parents out there, they'll understand this. He mentioned that he was often riding in the car with his daughter. He's driving with the car with his daughter, and his daughter would just start telling him all of her problems. Oh, Dad, you know, this boy doesn't like me, and this teacher, and this and that. And he learned, as all parents learn, is you have to clarify, am I in coaching mode or am I in listening mode right now? Because if you try to coach someone who wants you to be in listening mode, it ain't working.
It's not working. Yeah, for sure.
So how do you balance that? How do you announce the roles so you can keep the family together while keeping it professional?
So I think what we do is we have a systemized and unsystemized meetings, right? So we have weekly meetings every Sunday so that we know we're in business mode. So anything that's dealing with the parents or with the son is not in this specific area. So that's what I like to call non-negotiable, right? That's fixed. Then you have flexible, right? So then the flexible is what people tend to not be able to target, which is where we have to announce. So the flexibles is where we announce. The fixed is where we don't have to announce because it's fixed. We know that this is the mode that we're in. So like when we're out, we just say, when kind of a signal that we do is we raise our hands like we're in class, right? So when we raise our hands, we know that, okay, we're in business mode at this point, and then we announce it because this is not enough to know. So we raise our hands, which is a signal, and then we say, hey, I'm in business mode real quick. This is what I have to say. So we do that kind of often to be able to shift gears when we're in both of those settings. What's going on, family? You guys already know I appreciate you for checking out this episode. So you guys know that I've been trading and building high-level skill sets for years now. You see me on my Forex journey, my stock investment journey, my portfolio journey, a day in the life of everything. And so what I want to do is I want to give back to you. I want to make sure that you all learn everything that's in my brain. So what I have done is, specifically in regards to skill sets, is I've created a course, like a whole course. Like, this is the best thing that I've ever come out with since sliced bread. Right? It's a Forex course on how exactly to build wealth, create high-level skill sets, and I want to teach it to you. I want to give back. It's not even like, it's super affordable. Like, you could, like, your daughter could do it. A 5-year-old could do it. And that's what I want to help you guys do. I want to give back to you. So if you want to learn exactly how to build high-level skill sets, I want you to click this link right here. This link is going to break down everything for you and literally change your whole life. So go check it out. Check out the Trade Syndicate. Check out the way that we do things. Check out the Chart Slayer. Check out your boy. All right. See you on the next one.
Interesting. Do you ever find that, so I don't want to get into like a generational gap issue here, but I find, because I've worked in a family business too. My father is an insurance agent, been in the industry a long time. I tend to find that his ideas on how a business should run are different from the ideas that I have is a business should run.
Yeah.
How do you handle disagreements? Are there any examples? Have you ever run into a point, Marcus, where there's a difference in opinions on how the business should go?
The time. Probably
so
yesterday.
How do you do that? Tell me, give it to me.
So I think, I can't remember what the problem was. It was minute yesterday, but we had, like, there's always like, how, like, touch points within the business. Like, this is a common thing that we have. Should we be involved? Because we have virtual assistants, right? So I'm big on delegation. I don't even want to be involved. If I have to be involved, then there's something's wrong. In her eyes, we have to be involved. Our clients know us, so we have to be involved. I'm like, well, that's the reason why we hire people. Why do we need to be involved? So, like, those are common things. So what we do is sometimes you have to agree to disagree in some areas. There's just no way around it. So you operate the way you operate, I operate the way I operate. And then in some areas we compromise, right? So we say, let's say, for example, we just came from an event. We went to a Circle of CEOs event, and from there, we have leads. We go by, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want our VAs to call them, or do we want us to call them? So what we do is we do half and half. Half of us call one half of it, and then the other half they call. So then it's kind of like we compromise in that way, because in her eyes, we need to talk to them because we're the first touch point. They see us first. But in my eyes, I'm like, but we're announcing that we have VAs. So of course our VAs have to be the touch points after they see us to show them that we actually have virtual assistants within our business. So like you just got to kind of find a balance. And that's kind of like how we deal with disagreements, is we either agree to disagree or we find a balance.
So I think this is an interesting way to take the conversation, Marcus. So let's say, you take that approach. Half of the people that we met, you and your family will be the primary touch point. Mm-hmm. The other half, VAs, will be the primary touch point.
Right.
Do you have a process of going back in and assessing what's working, what's converting, at what percentages? Is that something that you're looking at?
Yes. So I'm the COO. So to kind of help in regards to like the roles that you were talking about, and then we'll get into answer your question because it makes sense. I'm the COO of Social Currencies. My mom's the CEO and my brother's the CMO. My dad's the systems and IT. Right. Okay. So this kind of helps when it comes to checking after the VAs have done their job. So because my brother's the CMO, he deals with the sales and marketing. So anything that's revolving around sales and calling leads and doing X, Y, and Z, he reports that to our founders meeting. Anything dealing with like systems and IT, admin, and hiring, that's me, right? That's my job. I'm responsible for reporting that. And so what happens is we have our team. We call them family members because one of our values is family first. So we don't call them employees, team, staff. We call them family members.
I like that. Okay.
So what we do is we have our family members, they fill out an end of day report. So the end of day report goes to the department heads, right? And so the department heads then have something called a CMO report, a COO report, a CFO report. And so with those reports, they give it to us. And so what we do is with those COO reports, we then talk to them in the founders meeting, which is how we're able to track a lot of the conversions and such.
I like the idea of an end of day report. And, there's one of the conundrums that you're running into, I'm running into as well, right? And that's scaling a business that requires you to be the face, right?
Right.
If someone hires Mark Savant Media to produce their podcast, they're hiring Mark Savant Media. We make decisions based on the way that people make them feel, right? And when people listen to the podcast, when they see me, when they hear me, they're making a decision to work with me because of me, not because of the person that I have working with me, whether that's in India, Serbia, the Philippines, etc.
Right.
However, much like you, Marcus, I'm trying to move myself, systemize the business so I can move myself out as much as possible. But I found that there's certain roles that I just need to be involved in, especially on that trek to six figures.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Right.
The 0 to 1 million is definitely the time you need to start tracking. For
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's certain quality control stuff that just continues to come up, especially with working on with VAs.
Yeah.
Which I want to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that, because I love the way this conversation is going. VAs tend to be able to really execute at a high level when I give them a specific task to do.
Yep.
But trying to think outside the box or trying to think like me, they tend to struggle with. Mm-hmm. Also, sometimes like English is my first language. I've been speaking it, for a long time. A lot of VAs, they don't necessarily speak English as their primary language.
Of course.
Or maybe they speak it well, but there's some tricky stuff with grammar and commas and when to put a question mark and stuff like that in there. Right. So I'm right now I'm putting in systems where this end of day report, which is really smart, let's get an end of day report. Let's have a weekly meeting. Every Friday I review all the work that's coming out next week, so that I can say, hey, going into the weekend, this is the stuff that needs to be tweaked and adjusted.
100%.
So 100%. What are you've got the end of day report. Is there anything else that you do? Are there any other systems you have in place to make sure that the work that's being done by your family, aka team, is aligned with you and your direct family's goals?
Yes. So we have something called a productivity tracker. Okay. So it's also within the end of day report. So what we do is we calculate the amount of minutes that it takes to get a job done, or in general for the entire day. So for example, let's say, just throwing numbers out there, it takes 300 minutes to get XYZ tasks done. We calculate percentages, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say we have 300 minutes and it takes 250 minutes for them to get it done out of 300. So we like to say you have to stay above 90% productivity. Right. And so what that does is, if you can't finish something within a certain time, then we know that we need to adjust the number there. So that means that 300 might need to go to 325, 350. So this is always a flexible number. The other thing that we do is, let's say it's below the actual time, then we know, okay, this person was XYZ productive at. So to back up for a moment, we have something, we use a site called Time Clock Wizard, which this site is very, very amazing. They have to take a screenshot in order to even clock in, like a face screenshot, clock in and out, excuse me. And what happens is there in Time Clock Wizards, you're able to, every 20 minutes you take a screenshot of their screen. So we know that they're working, and if not, we don't. So there's like, that is how we track, and then the productivity is how we track. And what happens is if a person is less than 300 minutes, we look at those screenshots. Okay, why did it take them less, or why did it take them more? Right? And so we want to make it so it's between 90% productivity, because let's be real, if we put it at 80% and people don't hit 80%, then they're really bad. That's like, if we're grading wise, that's a C. So we always we always aim high, reach for the stars and aim, and we land on the moon type of vibe, right? Type of thing. So that's kind of like another way that we track in regards to our VAs.
What about positive incentive, right? People tend to, I've been, leading teams here for the past, 15, 20 years. And no, I've never met someone that likes their boss looking over their shoulder and tapping them saying, why are you browsing Instagram or whatever, right? However, if you're too hands off, if you don't put any incentives in place, then it's like just nothing ever gets done.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I've started looking at is how can I put positive incentives in place? Is there anything that you're doing with your family team to help incentivize?
So we have a recognition program, right? So there's so many different ways you can recognize, which is a totally different topic. But what we do is we verbalize and give certificates and give company rewards, which is bonuses, cash, gift cards, whatever, to people who actually execute or hit a certain benchmark, or they help us reach a certain milestone. So we do milestone and we do immediate tasks, right? Consistently over time. So if, let's say, we reach 50K a month, which is great because we've hit that. So I can tell you based off experience how we rewarded our team. You hit 50K a month in revenue. We would give bonuses to every single person within our company, a certain amount of bonuses, right? So that incentivizes them. Oh, well, what if we hit 100K? What if we hit this? What if we hit that? So what kind of happens is we just have a recognition program. You can use softwares like I believe it's called Credibly. There are a lot of softwares out there that specialize in recognition programs to build culture. So that's kind of like ways that we reward people for doing certain things. And we also do it on calls. So we'll say, hey, let people know that we'll say, hey, X, Y, and Z person closed $3,000 today. Let's all clap for them. So then it makes it such a big deal that, and another thing that we do is notifications. So we use Discord and we zap, which is a totally different conversation. But what we do is we zap. Anytime someone purchases something, it sends a notification on Discord. So anytime there's payment, people will say, "Ooh, we got this, we got that," and it kind of raves the chat, so many different things, right? So those are ways that we kind of reward people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I really like the idea of setting a monthly revenue goal, and if you hit it or if you go above it, everybody wins. I think that makes sense. And to your point, Marcus, everybody wants something. Everybody wants money, so money's not a bad place to start. But everyone wants something, so that could be recognition, cash. I think that's a really smart way of keeping people incentivized. That makes a lot of sense to me. While we're still on this virtual assistant track, one of the problems that I had early on in my journey when hiring virtual assistants is that I would hire a virtual assistant for one job, and then I would try to shift them into another role. And it's like trying to fit a circle through a square. I think there needs to be some specialization.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, how do you and your family, how do you go about bringing on a new team member? What is that process? How do you find someone? How do you vet them? And how do you integrate them into your workflow?
For sure. So it's an extensive process. We vet heavily. So we go through, we actually have people that are designated. We call them, just like how you have lead generation, we have something called an application generation, right? Or an application generator, right? Which is people that specialize in certain platforms to bring people to our application. So we have people that specialize in Indeeds, people that specialize in onlinejobs.ph, people that specialize in those specific platforms. And what they do is they bring people to that application, and from there we vet them. So we have something where, and this is like a small tweak, people don't usually do this. I got this actually from Ravi Abubala, or I said that Abuvala, that's how you said it, Abuvala. He's a big systems guy, and he said how he vets is he'll put in the age. He'll say, okay, what's your age? Most people will put their age, but what he'll do is put in fine print, put below the number 42. That's what he does. And so what he does there is people who put the number 42 are the people that ascend to the next step. But the people who don't, we'll hit them up later as a follow-up. We'll kind of give them a second way to get in, right? But people who put 42 is like the vetting process, right? The other way that we do that is screening interviewing. We do skills test interviewing, and then we have a CEO interview, and then we have a meet and greet interview, right? So a CEO interview is obviously meeting with the CEO. Meet and greet is the selection process, right? So we have like test assignments in between those, each part of those interviews, to make sure that that's the vetting, is those specific test assignments. And then from there, we make a decision on the selection process, and then we onboard them. And then we have something called like a 5-day training. And then from there, we ramp them in ongoing coaching from there, and they're a part of the team. So like that's kind of like the way that we do it. It's very extensive, but it works.
Well, I really like the idea of testing the attention to detail. Mm-hmm. Attention to detail is everything.
Really,
as a business owner, it's I don't know. It's frustrating to have to like nitpick on the small things. Like, let's just get it done the first time, or the second time even.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's obviously the big deal. And so once you get these people and you've vetted them and they get into your system, how are you onboarding them specifically into your company, Social Currency, or are you helping match them with other business owners? I'm trying to flesh out, how your company helps business owners.
So both. So we have it for us, which is with the CEO interview. If it's for other people, we take out that CEO interview part and then just go straight to the meet and greet. So how it works is we would go through that same process and then go to the meet and greet, and then we'll give 2-3 of the highest quality candidates and vetted candidates for the client. And then they interview them. So that's kind of like a CEO interview, if that makes sense. So because they're still meeting with the client, which is the CEO, right? And so from there, there's the selection process. They make a decision, and we have them. They have a choice. Either they can have a group interview, or they can have it individually, right? It's up to them on how exactly they want to do it. We give them that option, and then they go through the interview process and make a decision after the call. Or sometimes some people want a little bit more hands-on, and we'll give them maybe like a week or 3 days to a week of a trial, right? Yeah. So they can see how they work within their business, because there are some positions you can't really measure, you can't really quantify, if that makes sense. So you got to sometimes have them within your business and kind of tell, like appointment setters, for an example, social media managers, for example. You can't really quantify. You have to know off of the work that is going on within your business. So those are kind of like ways that we help clients out, if that makes sense.
It does. And, I'm glad our conversation, because you're doing a lot of things, Marcus. Our conversation could have gone a lot of ways, but I'm glad that we're focusing on this virtual assistant thing. Because it's a game changer. It's a game changer. When I think about the way that my business has grown, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on virtual assistants. I made a lot of mistakes. It sounds easy, but it's not always simple to incorporate and involve a virtual assistant in your business. I'm very happy with the systems I have in place, and the team that I have now. I have 7 people working on my team, 7.5. Not because it's half a person, but because they're kind of like a part-time deal.
Right. I get it. The people on here wouldn't know, but I get it because I have a part-time as well. So I got you.
Yeah. But the thing is, again, like the goal with virtual assistants is, to try to remove lots of work from my plate. But I feel like as my business grows, it's requiring more of me. So I just love this idea of systems and figuring out, and there's something I saw in a clip of yours, Marcus, where you're talking about doubt. Yeah. Right. And I think if you're trying to get to your first 6-figure year, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, there are going to be doubts. You're going to face them every day.
Every day.
How do you deal with that, Marcus? How do you handle the doubt?
I always have something in the back of my head, and I always, like working out, anything, I always do this. The times that I don't feel like doing it is the times that I really need to do it. Like, though, that's kind of like what I say in my head every day that motivates me to continue to work. It's just really that proverb, like the times that I don't feel like doing it is the times that I really need to do it. It's like the consistency aspect of the times that you actually become successful is the minute tasks that you do every single day and the habits you do every single day, and the time that you actually blow up are usually the times that you don't feel like doing it, or you're not even anticipating it to happen. So I just really go through that specific proverb and go through that. That's how I do it. It might be different for every person.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a very similar space right now because I've been reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think I mentioned earlier this episode. Yeah. And that's really what he talks about, right? Because if you're relying on getting up and working it just based on your motivation, you're not always going to be motivated.
Agreed.
I don't always feel like going to the gym at 8 a.m. to work out, right? But if you can get into the habit, if you can institute and say, I do it when I don't feel like it, that's what separates the men from the boys, right? The male from the man. That's the separator. But not always easy. And I think that's a big part of where you need to start looking at the people you're surrounding yourself with. Get the limiting beliefs out of your life, because there are going to be limiting beliefs.
They are.
You got it.
It's inevitable. I mean, your mind moves. You know what I mean? It does its own thing. So you kind of have to. You got to train. It's a muscle. You got to train your brain to not think of those things, or at least reduce it to as much as you can. Yeah. So I feel like I just got to train that muscle. Yeah, no doubt. I have another question for you before we get into the rapid fire here. But Marcus, I noticed that you're pretty active at conferences, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to conferences, you're going to events, seminars. What's your top tip for turning people that you meet into clients? What's your top tip for turning event and conference leads into clients? Easiest thing you can do is become a vendor. I mean, they're looking to buy something. So I mean, like, there's no reason to try to be there. I mean, you can do it. You can be there at the conference, be general admission, be VIP, and try to sell someone off of a conversation. But there's no easiest way to convert somebody into clients than being a vendor. So I would say be a vendor and then actually create the environment that people want to sell, or people want to buy something from you. So like that's my biggest tip. And then make engagement your highest priority. So at a vendor, we hosted a podcast at the actual event. Everybody, since podcast is big now, everybody wants to be a guest on a podcast. So what that does is it brings a crowd, and then people then want to know what you do. So what we did is we created an environment for people to want to buy something from us. And so like that's kind of like a way that we convert people from leads into clients, or prospects into clients and events.
I'll tell you what, I love the idea of recording at the event as a way of getting your name out there. I was at Podfest earlier this year. I set up a little remote.
I was upset I missed that.
Dope event. You got to be there in January. But I set up like a little remote recording studio, and I just recorded a bunch of people, and I don't know, people recognize me now. It's pretty cool. It happens. Next month in October, depending on when this drops, I'll be at a couple events with all my recording equipment, developing relationships with people at a local event. So I'm with you there. I mean, listen, I could go all day about the value of podcasting, but I do like I think to me, one of the best things you can do when it comes to bringing on new clients is to make them feel important. Make your customer feel important, make them feel special, make them feel heard. And nothing does that better than putting them behind a microphone and letting them talk about themselves. I'm sure you've been on dates before, right?
Of course.
What's one thing that every person wants to do on a date?
Talk about themselves.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
There might be other motivations too, right?
But, right. Of course. But that's the main motivation.
Yeah, I want to talk about myself. I want to make myself look good and sound good, and that's why I get all dressed up. I want to talk about myself. Look at me, right? So that's a skill. All right, cool. So Marcus, I'm gonna get into the rapid fire section. So get ready, buckle up, get your parachute ready. Where's the best place for us to find you, Marcus?
Instagram, YouTube, anywhere. Chart Slayer, anywhere you can find me.
Chart Slayer, links below. Boom. Done. Got it. So Marcus, are you ready? Rapid fire?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. Let's rock out. What is the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Haunting in Connecticut.
Okay. A little ghost action. Got it. What if you could be any animal, what would you be?
I'd be a lion.
Dig it. if you were on death row, what would be your final meal?
My final meal? Sushi or curry.
Okay.
One of the two. One of the two.
Okay. Dig it. Dig it. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
I would live in Italy.
Italy. Why Italy?
I'm big on Leonardo da Vinci. So anywhere that he was inventing that energy that he is in, like, I would want to be where he's at.
Okay. Yeah, I visited Rome. Rome was one of my favorite cities to visit too. Super cool. One of the cool things in Rome is like you'll have, I mean, like you can eat at McDonald's right in front of the Pantheon, which is like thousands of years old. Crazy.
I've never been, but I don't even need to go to know that I'd live there. So you're teaching me something right now.
Super cool. I mean, it's crazy. It's like Starbucks in front of the Coliseum. Like it's wild. It's wild.
I gotta see that. I gotta go.
Yeah. Definitely make that happen. If you could sit next to anybody on the airplane, who'd you sit next to?
Michael Jackson.
Okay. Final question here for you, Marcus. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say?
Work harder, stop being lazy, and do things you don't feel like doing.
Marcus said it, and I agree with it. Marcus, thank you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Hey family, thank you so much for checking out this episode. I really do appreciate it. So I get this question a lot of, hey, how do you get your family on board on everything that you're doing? Your family's everywhere, you're traveling everywhere. This brand of family is huge. And so I want to teach you guys how to create a family business and build a true legacy for your family. And in order to do so, if you want to learn exactly how I do that, I want you to check out socialcurrencies.net/family. Actually book a call, see exactly how we can assist you in creating wealth for your entire family and breaking that generational curse. We are strongly against generational curses, and we want to break generational poverty and build generational wealth, and not just wealth, but true wealth. And so I want to help you guys. Go ahead, tap in. Again, the site is socialcurrencies.net/family, and I will see you on the flip side.